Letizia aborted her baby because it was not Felipe VI's, the high cost of a power marriage. Madrid, once hailed as the couple who modernized the Spanish royal family's image, Felipe VI and Letizia Ortiz are now at the center of a storm of rumors and an undisguised rift in their private lives. One of the latest, and most shocking, revelations has just been leaked from sources close to Jaime del Burgo, a former prominent lawyer and former confidant of Queen Letizia. Letizia had an abortion, and the baby was not Felipe VI's. This is not just a private story, but a fragment of a marriage that has long been considered a symbol of modern-day royalty. But behind the happy family photos, the hand-holding in front of the cameras and the grand ceremonies, the truth seems to be far from the truth. Marriage or agreement? Since their engagement in 2003, the love story between the Crown Prince and journalist Letizia Ortiz has been described in the most flattering terms: romantic, modern, breaking with tradition. But according to many who have worked inside the royal family, it was just a carefully constructed facade. Felipe VI, then heir to the throne, was constrained by royal, social and historical expectations. And Letizia, shrewd, ambitious and experienced, entered the royal family not only as a lover but also as a political figure. It was a pact, not a love affair, an old friend of Letizia's once said. They came together because they both needed something. Felipe needed a new image, and Letizia needed a position of power, something the press could never give her. The secret of tolerance. So what led to the current crisis? According to multiple sources within Zarzuela, Felipe VI has long known about his wife's affairs. But rather than object, he has chosen to remain silent, as long as it does not damage the royal image. Jaime del Burgo, who is rumored to be Letizia's former lover or even longtime secret lover, once shared with a close confidant, Felipe not only knew, but also agreed. He only asked for two things: discretion and to avoid scandal. In the picture of a ceremonial court, the strange thing is that infidelity is not necessarily taboo, as long as it is not exposed. In Zarzuela, face is everything, and that seems to have created a strange marital relationship, together, but living two parallel lives. The shocking abortion. But then, an event broke that delicate balance. Letizia became pregnant, and the child was not King Felipe VI's. The story, if true, would be an indelible stain on the image of a royal family that had been in turmoil since the time of King Juan Carlos. According to a source from a former aide close to Del Burgo, Letizia herself decided to have an abortion. It was not because of pressure from Felipe, who was said to have continued to keep silent, but because she knew full well, if the baby was born, it would be the end of everything. Not just for her, but for the dynasty. Letizia, although she may have lived in the golden cage of the royal family, has always maintained the sobriety of a media person. She knows the consequences of a scandal that goes beyond acceptable limits. And for the first time in years, she has lost control of her own story. When the crown becomes a burden. The bigger question after all the revelations is, are Letizia and Felipe still husband and wife in the truest sense? Or are they just maintaining a common front for the ultimate good of the monarchy? There are growing signs that the Queen of Spain's life is in a rut. She appears less frequently, remains stoic, and avoids public displays of affection. Rumors of her sleeping separately and living separately in El Pardo Palace are no longer denied as vigorously as before. From modern queen to lonely woman. Letizia was once hailed as a new kind of queen, intelligent, independent, not needing to live in her husband's shadow. But that very strength may have made her increasingly lonely. In the world of ceremonial, she never seemed to fully belong. In Philippe's eyes, Letizia may still be an ally, someone who has helped him stay afloat amid social discontent and family scandal. But love, if it ever existed, has been replaced by patience, calculation and prolonged silence. Is the end near? No one knows for sure what will happen next. The Spanish royal family has yet to respond officially to the latest revelations. But public skepticism is growing, and the images of happy family life, once the symbol of the new dynasty, are now just a fragile mask. A source in the Madrid media commented, "Letizia may still wear the crown, but she has sacrificed too much to keep it. And now, that crown may be the heaviest burden of her life." A staged silence, and hidden pain. In a controlled environment like the Spanish royal family, silence is not just a reaction, it is a strategy. And for Letizia, that strategy was probably learned by heart from the day she first entered the Zarzuela palace. She understood that, in a system where every action is scrutinized and remembered, personal pain cannot be allowed to exist in public. Letizia kept silent after her abortion, a personal, tragic decision, but one that became a royal solution to protect the image of the throne. Some said she was heartbroken, others said she was indifferent, but no one really knew what was going on inside that woman, because all emotions were suppressed under the calm shell she had perfected over the past 2 decades. No longer the sharp reporter on television, Letizia is now an icon, but a symbol of a life that has no room for mistakes, for true emotions, for personal choices. And perhaps, that is what has caused her to crack from within. Felipe, the king who stays out of the picture. Felipe VI, who was once seen as the face of a renewed and clean Spain after his father's scandals, is now being criticized for being too passive, too silent, too distant. He chose not to react to the rumors, neither denying nor confirming, a tactic that worked well in the early days of his reign, but has now become a double-edged sword. The fact that he is said to have known about and tolerated his wife's extramarital affair, even accepting the heartbreaking end of Letizia's abortion, has made many people start to question, does he still have any control over anything in his private life? Or is he just a puppet holding the throne, bound by unbreakable agreements? Felipe's nobility, if any, is now viewed with suspicion. In a dynasty that demands transparency and public trust, remaining silent in the face of storms is no longer a sign of courage, but a sign of helplessness. Letizia, the rebel in a silk dress. For many years, the media has often referred to Letizia as the rebellious bride of the royal family. She has openly expressed her attitude towards court rituals, corrected her husband on television, and dressed in unconventional ways during diplomatic events. But perhaps few people think that her greatest rebellion was daring to love, and perhaps become pregnant, outside the framework set by the throne. Letizia is not a weak woman. She is intelligent, has sharp intuition and has overcome many political and personal challenges to maintain her position. But it is precisely that power that makes her current decline all the more tragic. Behind the cold gaze, Letizia may be deeply hurt, not just by her personal choices, but by the isolation that the crown brings. A breakup without announcement? Many royal observers believe that Felipe and Letizia have actually split up for a long time, just not announced. They still appear together, still greet the public, still celebrate the birthdays of Princess Sofia or Leonor, but everything is just a formality. Behind the scenes, they live 2 separate lives, no longer sharing the same ideals, no longer sharing the same trust. Insider sources say that Felipe now spends more time on solo trips. As for Letizia, she often stays in Madrid, attends fewer events and has almost disappeared from public life outside of mandatory duties. The marriage that was once expected to be a miracle of love and royal duty is now just an old political alliance. And both seem tired, but neither wants to be the first to take off the mask. The royal family faces a life or death choice. What is happening is not just a personal issue between Felipe and Letizia. It reflects a deeper crisis at the heart of the Spanish royal family, where traditional norms are colliding violently with the demands of a modern society. Can the dynasty survive if secrets continue to be exposed? Can the Spanish people still trust an institution that behind the splendid ceremonies are stories of heartbreak, compromise and lies? A dynasty can stand on tradition, but it can only survive if there is truth. And now that truth is emerging, bit by bit, through the growing cracks in the lives of the king and queen.